GDP, or gross domestic product, is a key economic indicator used to measure the economic performance of a country. It represents the total value of all goods and services produced within a country's borders during a specific time period. When we look at GDP, it's not just about the number itself. It's a reflection of a country's standard of living, economic health, and overall growth. Understanding how GDP varies across different countries and comparing it to international benchmarks can reveal important insights into a nation's economic standing. When comparing GDP across countries, we often look at GDP per capita, which gives us an understanding of the average economic output per person. This can provide a more accurate comparison between nations, especially when population sizes vary significantly. For example, a country with a large population but a low GDP might have a low GDP per capita, while a smaller, wealthier nation may have a higher GDP per capita, despite having fewer people. GDP can be measured in three ways: production, expenditure, and income. The production approach calculates the total value of goods and services produced in an economy, while the expenditure approach sums up consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. The income approach adds up the total income earned by individuals and businesses, including wages, rents, and profits. Each of these methods should, in theory, give the same result, but they provide different perspectives on the economy. Now, let's take a look at some of the countries that often top the list in terms of GDP. The United States, for example, consistently holds the position of having the highest nominal GDP in the world. This is primarily due to its diversified economy, technological innovation, and global financial influence. China follows closely behind, and while it has a larger population, it has also become a global economic powerhouse, particularly in manufacturing and exports. Another important factor when comparing GDP across nations is the difference between nominal GDP and purchasing power parity, PPP. Nominal GDP is the market value of all final goods and services within a country, using current exchange rates. However, PPP adjusts for differences in price levels between countries. The relationship between GDP and economic growth is essential to understanding the trajectory of an economy. A growing GDP indicates that an economy is expanding and producing more goods and services. This typically leads to more job opportunities, increased income, and higher standards of living. On the other hand, a shrinking GDP can be a sign of an economic downturn or recession where production and consumption decline, unemployment rises, and living standards fall. It doesn't take into account the distribution of wealth within a country. A country could have a high GDP, but if wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, the overall well-being of the population might be lower than expected. Additionally, GDP doesn't account for environmental sustainability. A country could be producing a lot of goods and services at the expense of the environment, and GDP would still rise despite negative long-term consequences. Another factor to consider is that GDP doesn't include the informal economy, which can be quite significant in many countries, particularly in developing regions. Despite their established infrastructure and high GDPs, these countries need to innovate and adapt to modern trends, such as the rise of technology and automation. As we wrap up, remember that GDP figures might sound like dry economic jargon, but they hold the key to understanding global trends, national well-being, and the financial future of countries. So next time you hear about GDP, think beyond the numbers. Think about the lives behind them. Before we sign off, here's a quick joke to keep the mood light. Why don't economists ever play hide and seek? Because good luck hiding when they always find a way to count you in. That's it for today's deep dive into GDP and international comparisons. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment about your thoughts on how GDP impacts your country. Catch you in the next video.